Want to welcome you to our workshop today, our pattern breaking series. And the series this time around, we're working on how to use AI to fast track emotional strength without AI becoming a crutch. I purposefully put that there because people have this feeling that if they lean on AI starts to actually become something that causes them to lose the ability to think. But it's actually more nuanced than this. And part of what we're going to be looking at today is showing us exactly how to use AI for cognitive work in a way that will help us to enable our clarity, but also help us to avoid outsourcing our faculties to AI. We don't want to get to the point where we struggle to be able to think clearly. Um, we I'm not too sure how this may be telling off my age. But there was a time when we didn't really have calculators as much. Calculators was the new thing when it first started coming out, and especially when we started having the scientific calculators, where at the time people were expected to do maths and subtractions and multiplications in the head. And we were doing very well with it. But after years of the calculator being around, um, eventually you must struggle to remember your mobile number. So you remember back in those days where your home number will be so easy to just remember. So there is the risk of losing our thinking abilities to AI, but it has to be done in a particular way to sort of avoid that. So today we are looking at the specific topic of how to use AI for mental clarity, especially when you have been emotionally sabotaged. I remember, I think I was between 16 and 17. And this was the first time I ever had this kind of experience where I just could not sleep. I could not sleep. And you wonder what is causing a 16-year-old boy to feel so worried to the point that he could not sleep. And it was that there was this girl I had a crush on. And for whatever reason, that particular night, I was thinking she's not going to like me at all. And that just overwhelmed my mind, just made me struggle to sleep. I just found myself just tossing and turning, tossing and turning. This had never happened to me before that point. And obviously, yes, thinking about a girl and having a crush at that age felt like something that was really, really important. Now, at this age, you know that there's way more problems in life than that. But my point is, we all have been through situations where, for whatever reason, our mind's ability to think clearly through something, our mind's ability to think clearly through something is affected, and we're not able to think so clearly. I think I got Onion. Hi, it's great to see you. You're asking, is this being recorded? Yes, it's being recorded. It's been recorded. And I want to just welcome you to the meeting. I was surprised to see you join Amian, because I think except you're a different Amian, but I'm thinking that you're the Amian I know. I may be completely wrong. And also welcome Joy. Good to see you with us today. Right. So who is this for today? This is going to be for you if you found that emotions tend to hijack you before you can think clearly about something, and you find your body reacts to Your body reacts before your mind catches up with what you're trying to do. Or if you find that once the spiral starts, you just can't stop it. You just find yourself having to keep trying to think clearly through that spiral, and it creates a bit of a fog in the head. Or if you find yourself in a situation where you have to deal with pressures, and under pressure, your ability to think clearly or straight gets sabotaged. The strategies we're going to be covering today will help to give you the skill sets and actually train the brain into being able to think clearly under these types of high pressured, high emotional states, situations. So just for those who may not know me, my name is Adewale Ademiwa. I'm the founder of StressTherapist.net. I'm a licensed consultant psychotherapist, and as you see, I also see myself as an AI strategist. I've been working on AI related things now since 2020, and just dabbling into so many different things about AI, just trying to kind of understand. I use AI to write, use AI to help people. Oh, yes, Amy, and you, it's you, right? I was thinking that it was you. Yeah, you purchased our PCW app, which is like our writing app that I created with AI. So I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and I've been working in mental health for over 30 years, supporting people with high functioning depression, high functioning anxiety, trauma related difficulties, personality disorder, and all forms of anxiety problems. And I've helped over 1,600 people now break out of the survival mode by using my 4 forces framework to stop people from sacrificing themselves just to keep functioning. If you've been with us over the last month now, you'll notice we've been running these pattern breaking rooms, and I intend to just carry on running it for different topics to help people learn how to manage difficult emotions around difficult situations. So we just give people the tools for coping better emotionally. And as I've always said, my passion now is to help create a world where everyone has personalized emotional support in their pocket using my knowledge in psychotherapy, neuroscience, and AI. So one of these days, you will be having tools from StressTherapist.net that's supporting you in your pocket. Cool. So have you ever been in this moment where you're faced with an experience that's just left you with a feeling of, how am I going to do this? The situation feels impossible. It feels like it can be done. It can be worked through. I had a client who had a deadline. His manager was saying, this deadline we must meet this deadline. And as he was trying to meet this deadline, he had a mortgage he was also trying to get and buy. He had his daughter's school he was trying to sort out. He was worrying about losing his job. So he had all these things going on, and it just clouded his mind and starts making him feel like he's going crazy. He's losing it. So have you ever been in that situation where there's just so much going on that you just find yourself struggling to think clearly?
I think we've all been there one time or another, because I remember not this job I have now, but the previous one.
Yes.
when I had to do the assessment, I got 6 months to do the assessment before the CQC or anyone could come in.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to the other ward, because they moved me from that ward after that assessment was done and we passed to another ward. When I got to the other ward, they said, because you just done that, it should be easier for you to do it in this new ward. And gave me 6 weeks.
Wow.
I thought, oh my goodness. And honestly, I'm not going to lie, I broke. I called
Mm,
my GP and I said, I'm
mm,
so stressed. I need some time off.
mm.
And I got time off for stress because even though I've done it before, in my eyes, I was thinking, I can't do this. This is way too much. I'm overwhelmed. So yes, I think we all get to that point one time or another. Maybe not to that extent, but to some extent.
Yes, yes. And the reality in that mode, unless somehow someone has told you or you've learned about it, you won't recognize that your mind can go to a point where you just can't think through whatever it is that you're having to do, you want to do, the things that you have on your plate. Everything just starts to be jumbled up. And if one is not careful, especially if you have like some of the old ways of thinking, which is you're thinking, oh, am I going crazy? Because maybe somebody I know became lost it and broke down and had a mental health complete breakdown. You may even be fearing that is this what's happening to me? And that in itself starts to sort of ramp up the anxiety. So as an important first step, it's important to recognize, okay, what's really happening? What's really happening here, first of all? We're going to be going to how we use AI to resolve all of this, but to help us understand how to use AI, we want to actually see what's going on here, first of all. So there's a tendency to be hit by what I call like the hidden cause of anxiety or emotion, the emotions being sabotaged by this diagram that you see here. And when you look at this diagram, you can see it's got emotional mind, the logical mind, and the wise mind. The wise mind is something that we'll come back to later. But this is actually depicting the way our brains work. In other words, your brain has a section that manages emotions. That would be the amygdala, the hippocampus. All those areas work together for helping with the emotion and your limbic system. I say the hippocampus is more for memory. Now, and then there's the logical part, which is the bit in front there that looks like a cabbage, the cortex. And they have this relationship where, as you can see the blue arrow going up, that's like saying that your emotions are going up and your logical mind is just naturally coming down. So this is something that we all experience, and it's a biological thing that's happening, that happens to everybody. You can remember this is happening to you, for example, in the situations where you get angry about something. Let's say you're someone who is the nicest person, but in that angry mode, you say something horrible, and in that angry mode, you don't even care that the thing you said hurts the person. But then later on, when you calm down and you think about what happened, you start to feel very ashamed about, oh, how did I say that? Because now your logical mind has returned and you're able to think clearly about what happened. Whereas in that moment where you're saying that those hurtful things, the angry mind was making you believe that you are justified to make the person feel all the hurt that you are trying to make them feel. This also happens with anxiety. In the intense anxiety, you lose that logical framing for what you're feeling anxious for. And that thing that you're feeling anxious becomes something that you believe 100% in that mode, where logically you know that is not so true. So for example, let's say what you were worrying about was you're going to lose your job. The fact that Maybe your manager has told you last week that they really value you at work, that they really appreciate the effort you put into it. That won't come to your mind at all in that moment where you're feeling anxious about losing your job. Is the belief that you're losing your job that will be so strong, even though you have logical reasons or logical facts to not believe this. So this is a biological thing that's going on in the brain, and it has a good reason to be there. In other words, if you were to walk outside on the road and see a lion, there's no chance that you're going to sit down on the floor and try to be logical about it. You're going to emotionally react. So it's there to protect us in the right circumstances. Unfortunately, in situations where we are not really managing the emotions as well, it tends to then sabotage us. So this starts the ball rolling, but then there's something else that then makes it even way worse. And that is that the tendency to be self-critical about the emotions you're feeling, or self-critical about the fact that you are not thinking clearly. So let's say, for example, you are trying to do a presentation and you find that your words are not coming as clearly, your mind is going blank, and then you get frustrated with yourself for having this blank mind when you're supposed to be delivering to this professional group that's in front of you. That added frustration, that added self-criticism that's going on now, that balloons the emotions. You know, we've already said that emotion, now mind, pushes the logic away. So imagine now that you're not getting frustrated, that you're getting emotional. What's going to be happening to the logic by this time? It's out of the window. It's out of the door. Right. Can you see what I have explained so far? Does this all make sense?
Yes, it does actually.
Yep. Thank you. I say, Abigail, enjoy. Thumbs up. Cool. So, to help us understand then how we're going to use AI here, we want to sort of understand the role that AI plays. And to understand the role that AI plays, I'll tell you a short story about a client of mine who had the fear of flying. And there was this day she was meant to go travel. She was traveling and got into the cab and was terrified about the idea of going to do this trip. The taxi driver noticed that she was scared and just said one thing. He just said one thing. He said, "How many accidents happen compared to plane crashes?" And for some reason, that phrase just completely just calmed all her anxiety out, because now she just can't consider it logically. You know, that's true. You hardly hear of plane crashes as much. Maybe you hear once in a while, once in a blue moon, look, car accidents are happening all the time. So in fact, the car I'm in here is less safe than the plane. Now, so for her, for some reason, that statement just kind of brought in her logical reasoning. Now, this is the role that we're trying to get AI to play. So AI is like this taxi driver. But why is AI playing this role? Now, people will say that AIs cannot be emotional. I'm just wondering, can you either put your hands up or say yes in the microphone? Do you believe AI has emotions? What's your take? Can AI feel? And we wonder, is this a trick question? Why is he even asking this question? Can AI feel? If you say yes, thumbs up. If you say, so Joy says no, it can't feel. Amian says no, it can't feel. And Abigail, what do you think?
I'm kind of I don't want to disagree totally, but I think is whatever you express to AI is what you get back. So if your question comes across like a feeling, the answer you get back comes across as this if appears to be a feeling. So um I don't want to say no, but I don't want to say yes either.
You know what?
In middle
On the
ground.
fence.
I'm saying whatever you perceive, whatever you put there, what it answers to that AI give you would be your perception of whether it is feeling or not feeling, is what I'm trying to.
I understand. I understand. So yes, so as we know now that for now, there's a lot of arguments that it's potentially possible that AIs can have some form of feeling that is very different from the way humans feel, because in their studying of the AI's brain, they've noted there's some areas that light up, which somehow is similar to emotional areas like humans would light up. So whilst they don't respond to feelings like we do, the AIs have a weird, interesting understanding of emotions. So there was the other day that I was just typing to an AI, trying to get it to do something, and it just kept on doing something completely different. And it was like I got angry with the AI, and I typed in, "Come on, can you listen to me? You're doing the wrong thing." But I did not think that my typing, whatever I was typing, could have been interpreted as being angry. The AI said, "Oh, I noticed you're getting angry. I'm really sorry about that." Just had my mind blown. Abigail, I see you had your hands up.
Why I said that as well is because I asked AI a silly question once, and it basically asked, tell me back. It answered the question, but then basically say, how dare you ask a silly question? I said, because that the response I got, I said something about God and in context with, I think something with human and God, and so how dare you, more or less saying, how dare you compare God with a human is what it was basically saying. So it comes across that way.
Yes. Joy says, but what was that again? I just was reading what Joy says. Let me just pull it up again. One thing that AI is really good at is humor. Yes, that's true. It made me laugh out many times. Yes, that's true. And and one of the things I've noticed is that when I'm trying to get an AI to understand an emotional context of something, it often would have such a deeper understanding of the emotional context than most people I know would. So whilst yes, it's a different form of emotional understanding, but the thing that makes AI actually very powerful is that it can deal with whatever you are bringing with to it from a logical perspective. It can be like that calm outside voice. Yes, Amian says, I'll call it artificial emotional intelligence. Yes. Artificial emotional intelligence, that's a good one. Yes. So you can think of AI like that calm voice, that calm external voice, just like that taxi driver. It has all the knowledge in the world. And this is what's so important to take on board. It has all the knowledge that we can find on the web. And more, even more so. So any knowledge that or any information, it already has it in there. It knows more than the doctors. Now, when they do different exams, it scores better than most doctors. It diagnoses even better than most doctors. It knows better than lawyers. It has more knowledge than engineers and teachers. However, if you don't know how to get that knowledge out properly, and get it out safely, it can create a lot of problems. And we're going to be touching on that in the next few slides. But I wanted us to sort of home in on that Venn diagram that I just showed you earlier again, specifically on the wise mind, because this is the thing that is very important for us to train. In other words, when your emotional mind and your logical mind come together and starts to work together, this is when we tend to be wiser in our decisions and in our actions. In other words, if for whatever reason my emotions is getting too high, I'm not thinking logically, I'm able to do something to bring my emotions back down. This will help my logic to come back up. In other words, it will bring my logic back into the room to actually help me with whatever I'm doing. And this is the thing that we want to use AI to help us reproduce, especially in a situation where your emotions have been sabotaged and the clarity of thinking has been taken away by whatever has happened. But to do this, we have to be mindful of a massive trap. And that is that there's a wrong way to use AI. Be mindful that you're not using AI for reassurance. And I have to caveat that. I'll explain why I said that in this. Because there are levels of reassurance. Some levels might be fine. Some levels are actually quite toxic to the way our brains are created. So, as an example, in CBT, when we are working with things like OCD, one of the biggest problems with OCD would be that people get so used to seeking reassurance. So even seeking reassurance from their dad, from their husband, from their daughter. And the idea of seeking reassurance here is that you are training your brain to not trust you. Anytime you're seeking reassurance and it becomes a pattern, each time you go out and seek reassurance, you tell your brain, regarding this particular situation, this is how we resolve it. We can't resolve it by trusting me. You have to find somebody else to trust. So, for example, something else or somebody else. So, for example, if let's say I have like a spot on my hand that I never seen there before. Now this spot is making me think: is this a health concern? Right? Is this a cancerous thing? So I go and Google to find out if it's when I see a spot like this on my hand, it's a cancerous thing. And Google will tell me, actually, that can be a very dangerous thing that you must go and see the doctor for. Because if you don't go and see the doctor, it could be a cancerous thing that you didn't catch early, because skin cancer can come up like that. Right? In this situation, who am I now trusting? Myself or Google? What's your take?
Google, obviously, because it gives you reason to doubt yourself. But I don't think it's such a bad thing if Google said that, because if you've gone and you've tested and then you don't have it, that puts your mind at ease. And if you've gone and then it is the fact that you have it, Google has just saved you, isn't it then?
And this is where the trap exists, because there's a fine line between Google helped me and I've become dependent on Google. I don't know if that makes sense. Yes, Google can help like that. And there's nothing wrong with trying to find this kind of information and get some reassurance like this. But if it becomes a pattern that becomes repeated, because what's going to happen is next time you find another spot, Google said it was cancer last time. And yes, perhaps if it was cancer last time, so this must be cancer next time. And it becomes a pattern that every time you find something, eventually it develops into a health anxiety. Or as another example. So actually, before I go to that other example, so the pattern here is that I looked for reassurance from something, and it gave me the reassurance. But each time I do that, my brain tells me whenever we meet this kind of situation, the only way you can be safe is if you do what you did the last time. And so you just keep doing that. So it may be that the problem was I went outside and I thought to myself, did I lock my door? Did I lock my door? Then I go back and check, oh, I locked the door. Now, one off, two times, that should be fine. But if it now becomes every single time, I have to go and check. I'm teaching my brain that the solution to resolving this initial sense of anxiety and feeling about my door is to always go and check. You cannot trust your gut instinct. And when you keep doing that over and over, eventually it just becomes what you trust. So we need to be careful when we are using AI that we do not find ourselves seeking reassurance from the AI repeatedly over time, especially on the same topic. So as a good question, as a good way of noting, is this reassurance seeking or is this a healthy information gathering? If you have gone to the AI for the same thing and it's giving you the same answers over and over and over and over, and you feel reassured each time it gives you the same answers, and you keep repeating that pattern, then you are becoming trapped in a reassurance trap. Does that make sense?
If it does, because a good example is on
Yes,
Friday.
good.
On Friday, I was passing this. There were people outside and they're offering little gifts, but you had to answer a question. And she pulled out some flags and she said, if you could name one of these flags, you will get such and such a gift. And I thought, oh, I know that one. It's got this flower on it and it's red and white. That is Canadian flag. So in fact, instead of thinking that is a Canadian flag, I said, is that a Canadian flag? Because usually what I would have done is
Yes.
probably Google it to check AI to see if to confirm.
Yeah.
And because I said, is that a Canadian flag? And she went, no. I walked away. When I got back to where I'm going, I Googled it and it was correct. And because my confidence, because of going and checking AI after, maybe I spelled check or something, I was thinking, maybe I'm wrong. So I think if you use it too much, it makes you lack the confidence you would have had and you become a bit more reliant on it. So is that what you're saying?
So that's one of definitely one of what I'm saying. So that's more about you're relying on it for correct answers. But sometimes you are also relying on it to help you just to feel reassured that maybe you are good enough or maybe you are on the right track with a problem. So there was a particular situation where a husband felt that his wife was toxic. Yeah. And he went to the AI to ask, my wife did A, B, C, and D. Is she toxic? So the AI said, yes, she's toxic. But this husband did not necessarily said, before the wife did A, B, and C, I did A, C, D, and F to her. But because he is not saying that part, he's believing what the AI is saying. Because every time he's going to the AI, giving the AI his part of the picture of what has happened, the AI feeds him a reassurance that he is in the right here. he's in the right here. So there's a bit of a difference with that reassurance seeking to like maybe learning to be able to figure out the capital of France, for example. That's right. I'm just trying to remember what's the capital of France.
Parrot.
Paris. I'm just going to say, well, should I go and check AI? No, I'm just joking. But can you see the difference between that? Yes, come. Right. So that's reassurance.
One is sort of like you looking for a factual answer, and one is you looking for an answer to reassure you.
Exactly. To make you feel secure, to make you feel right, to make you feel justified, to make you feel okay. So to some degree, yes, it's still okay to do that a little bit, but when we do it a lot, then that starts to become a problem. Now, the fact, getting AI to help us to find a fact, we can still outsource our brain to it. If every single fact that we're trying to learn or remember, we go to AI for it, we start to struggle with the ability to remember things by ourselves eventually. So that's another problem. So I prefer that when we're working with AI, we're following almost like an interrogating approach. So we're interrogating the AI, but we're also using multiple frames. And the multiple frames is very, very important. So going back to that example of the husband who was saying, my wife did A, B, and C. Is she toxic? I would say, okay, to hold a multiple frame here to the AI, you could say to the AI, okay, my wife did A, B, and C, but I want you to think like a man and also think like a woman under the circumstances and explore what this thing that my wife did properly from both perspectives. All of a sudden, the AI will now surface a completely different way of thinking about the same thing. Because a way a man might think about one thing will be very different from a way a woman might think about the same thing. I don't know. Can I just check if anybody disagrees with me here first before I yeah.
We don't disagree. We are more emotional. You guys are more logical.
I disagree with that.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
I disagree with that. I've seen some men that are more emotional than some women, though. But anyway, I mean that's the but we're sort of different in the way we think about things. There's a big spectrum of personality types, yes, with men and women. But in terms of just being able to sort of look at things from multiple frames, I'll give another example. So if I wanted to learn about challenges, for example, I can learn about challenges from a cognitive behavioral therapy perspective, like a psychotherapy perspective. And I could feel, okay, I'm satisfied with that. But really what's happening is this is still just giving me just one tunnel vision about the way I'm thinking about this concept of challenges. What if I learn about challenges from a perspective of an artist? So I say to the AI, I want you to look at the concept of challenges, but come at it from a perspective of an artist and come at it from a perspective of a psychotherapist and bring both together. So the AI now fuses different ways of thinking about this so that I don't get single-minded. This is a very important concept because what happens is in life, whenever we're struggling with things, our ability to think usually narrows down. We become single-minded. Have you ever had a situation where you are trying to explain something to someone and to you, you're saying, but this is so clear as day and night. It's so plain. And why can't you understand? Why can't you see what I'm saying? Right? It's because in that moment, the person is seeing just one singular perspective of that thing. They can see all sides of the problem. So AI can have a very powerful way of making us even so more tunnel vision and singular, and not be able to see other sides of a problem. And this approach to using multiple frames is so crucial to stop AI from doing that. And then the last one, which is one of the right ways I use to really work with AI, is using this concept called first principles thinking. Anybody here would want me to explain that? Just let me know. But just think first principles is trying to think of something from, okay, Joy says yes. Okay, yes. So trying to think of things by breaking it down to its fundamental truth. What is the if you remove all assumptions, if you remove all concepts, if you remove all parts of the problem that will make you have assumptions about things, what is the truth? What's the tiniest amount of truth about this thing? So you say to the AI, think about this from a first principles perspective. And just to help us understand that, I'm just going to show that quickly. I'm going to ask an AI a question, and I'm going to share my screen so you can see me do this. Okay, you can see the screen. But let me just ask an AI, let me just ask it a question and say, in because I don't want it to give us too much content, in a short answer, can you tell me how to manage worry? Now, it's going to give an okay answer. I asked for a short answer. Does it give an okay answer? For core skills, learning to separate worries you can act on from worries you can't. For worries you can act on, write down specific problems. It is okay. There's nothing wrong with this specific answer. But if I now say from use first principles thinking, it's going to be completely different. Okay, so that is stripping worry down to its base components. Worry is your mind simulating future threats to try to control uncertain outcomes. So the fundamental truth, this is all going down to first principles now. Worry assumes that mentally rehearsing a problem changes its outcome. It doesn't. The thinking and the outcome are separate systems. So you can see how it's breaking it down to atoms. For worry is a thought, not an event. The thoughts predict, they don't determine, right? Can you see how different the response is from the first one? Now, why would I suggest us doing it from first principles? one of the realities of many answers we have in life is that many answers can come from many different perspectives, even very wrong perspectives too. And this is why sometimes you have people debating, and they're both on the different spectrums of the debate. And when you are listening to the debate, you're thinking, okay, both of them can be right in some way, right? Unfortunately, this is the thing that causes problem when you're trying to manage your clarity in an emotional state. You don't want ideas and concepts that could be maybe okay or right or not right. You don't want that. You want ideas and concepts that are truthful to the situation you're trying to manage. Did I see a question pop up? So yes, AI seems to be as honest in its responses to me as I am with it. I guess that providing it with the full context, meanings, and nuances, it tends to become more realistic in its responses. Yes, but I can't tell you how many times I've found myself in a situation where that response feels so correct. But then when I asked it to break it down first principles, it then reveals so many errors that if I had taken action on what it had said initially, I could have run into problems. So we want to break things into first principles. We want to get the AI to break things down to first principles. Let me share my slide back again. Did my explanation of use of first principles make sense? Just thumbs up? Uh, yes. Cool. So for me, I'm quite compulsive with this. I actually was asking Claude just today that, okay, if you were to describe to me how I interact with you, what would you say? He said, you regularly, almost in a compulsive way, ask me to explain things with first principles thinking. And I do that because I know that AI can tell lies in a very convincing way, right? So this makes it avoid doing that. So two number of things. I'm getting it to think of things from different perspectives, so that I myself, I don't become narrow-minded, because anybody can become a narrow-minded, and unfortunately, AI can promote that narrow-mindedness. And if you are not careful, you are thinking that you're having clarity, you are resolving a problem, but you're actually getting blinder because the AI is agreeing with you and pushing you down a particular route. But when you allow it to think from multiple perspectives of the ways different people will think, sometimes I'll even use different experts, even experts that are not in my field of psychotherapy. I may bring somebody who's an engineer in. When I say bring somebody else, I'm getting the AI to think like an engineer on the same problem. And it's so surprising how many different ways it helps you to be able to think about a problem in a way that just gives you so much clarity that you would never have had before. Yes. So MEN says, excellent. So it would be sufficient to include the phrase, use first principles thinking in one's question. Exactly. So just use the phrase, first principles thinking. It will help you to break things down to that atomic truth of whatever it is that you're dealing with. So as a final step, then I'm just going to kind of share a very simple clarity prompt that I would use. Now, I'm going to share a number of prompts here so that you can all copy it from from the message box. But this is a simple one. So let's say I find myself in a situation where I'm highly emotional, I'm struggling to think clearly. I'll stop for a second, take a breather, then use a prompt like this to try to get the AI to think. I noticed that the first principles is missing out of this one, but yes, I can add the first principles thinking to it. So it says here, I'm worked up and I want you to think clearly. Be calm, be a calm, curious friend. No advice, no reassurance. Ask me what happened. Help me separate the facts from the story that I'm adding. Then point out what I'm missing. Ask more than you tell me, and start now. So this would get the AI to go in a mental frame that allows it to start to help you process something from a logical perspective. Now, I'm just wondering, as you read through that, what phrases are jumping out at you that somehow mirror some of the concepts I've shared with you today? Can you see if you can pinpoint them? No reassurance. Good.
Clearly.
Think clearly. Point out what I'm missing. Yes. Think clearly. Yes, definitely. So separate the facts from the story. Point out what I'm missing. No advice, no reassurance. Because you see, if you don't say these things, the AI will give you reassurance. The AI will give you reassurance. The AI may not even separate the facts from the stories. So when you give the AI something like this, and then if you use first principles thinking on top of it, you are really grounding the AI in a way that helps you to actually now be able to think through whatever it is that you are dealing with, that you're trying to clarify better. And you end up in a way where you are addressing the problem, not getting stuck in cycles and loops that spirals out of control, if that makes sense. So really, it's a bit of a scaffold that we are placing around the AI to avoid it becoming a crutch. And the process that I've just described to you today, so what we're saying is you use the process, first of all, to help the AI understand where you're going with things. Someone says, I mean, okay, I sometimes end off my question with, please be brutal and honest with me, no BS. Yes. I noticed you said please. Isn't it interesting how we say please to AI? Some people say maybe one of these days, when the AIs will remember the people who were kind in conversing to it, if we ever get those threatening Terminator type AIs. Anyway, so as you say, this whole process, the way we make sure that this doesn't become us outsourcing our thinking to AI. As we learn these strategies with AI, eventually we want to get to a point where we are not necessarily doing it all the time with the AI. So that kind of thinking that I've described in the last slide, this thinking process. Initially, it might be hard to just do it by yourself, especially if you're not used to being able to think through situations when you are in a stressed state. Initially, you actually allow the AI to guide you. And maybe you do it like this once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Eventually, you want to start moving on to trying to go through this process yourself. Okay, how did I think about it that time? And once you do this over and over, eventually it starts to become easier to be able to think through things in a logical way. And once that happens, it's almost like you've taken on the training wheels and you're now riding on managing the emotions and managing the clarity by yourself. So now that brings us to the end of our workshop today. I'm hoping that it has actually been an enjoyable experience for all of you, as it has been for me. And want to sort of invite you to join us in our pattern room, because we're going to be doing quite a lot of different supports here, the workshops every Sunday. And in our pattern room, which is our WhatsApp group, during the week, we have opportunities for people to ask questions, opportunities for people to discuss different things. So as I've tried to create a community in WhatsApp to allow us to just have this opportunity to just talk through different issues. So if you have your phone, you could either just copy the number and text me your number so I can add you to the group, or you could use the QR code to scan and be able to join the group as well. So before we go off, I just want to give people opportunities to ask questions. Do you have any questions from anything that we have discussed today, or has it all made sense? Any questions? Feel free to unmute your mic if you have questions you want to ask. No questions? Oh, Joy says, you mentioned, oh, I'll put the prompt in the link. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Let me just do that. I'll get the prompt, I'll put it in the link. Yes. Sorry, you were saying something, Abigail, I interrupted you.
All right, I was just going to say, it is all these sessions that you have. I've actually been trying and putting them into practice, and they have been working because I'm one of those who could go from one extreme to the next, and finding that balance sometimes could be very difficult. So these sessions, I'm so appreciative of them. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your time. And we all know time is money. So
Yes.
thanks very much. I appreciate it for you sharing your time and your talent with us when you come up here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the kind words. And thank you, Emian. Emian says, I'd like to just say this session was very enjoyable. Is there a cost to join Pattern Room? No, it's all free. The Pattern Room is all free. These sessions on Sundays are free. So feel free to join. I think I should have said that maybe even last week as well. People are thinking maybe it's not free. Yes, it is free. Again, as you can see, this is something that's my passion, to just help people learn these things, to sort of help break free in different ways. I'm trying to find my prompts so that I don't forget that again. Okay, so let me see where I saved it on my desktop just before we started, and I have moved it away. Okay. And
And Damien, it starts at 7:30 every Sunday.
oh yeah, there we go. Right. So I've got a number of prompts here. Some of them are more complex than others. So there's the one that we have in the webinar itself, which was perhaps the simplest of them. So what I'm doing now is copying the prompts I have and then pasting them into the chat. So this is the first one. This I call a master prompt, because this would almost make the AI act like a therapist in terms of getting you to think through things. And what's it? Zoom is saying that's too long. So let me give you. Okay, so what should I do this way? I have you all your emails. I can just copy it all and email it to you right now. Would that be okay? I'll email it to you now. Joy, I do have your email, Joy. Do I? Did you sign? Did you comment through the email or just from WhatsApp? Or better through email. So I should, yeah. Okay. So if you receive my emails, then I have your email. Yes. Yep. So I'll email you it, and Abigail, I have your email as well. So as soon as we finish now, I'll email everybody and send them the prompts. So I'm really happy that you've enjoyed it. We have a number of very, very important topics we're going to be covering, and showing how we use AI to help us address different aspects of managing our emotions. So by the end of these 5 sessions, I believe that you'd have a lot of powerful tools for getting AI to help with different forms of issues around emotions and thinking. So thank you so much for being a wonderful audience, and wishing you all a great week.